Good morning. Yes, I know the light is kind of crazy this morning. The light is shining in on me, but that's okay. And kind of as a summary of what's been going on here on this channel, I've been finding out more reasons why I have the paranormal abilities and psychic abilities that I've been born with. And the fun part of this is the experiment with this particular incarnation is I'm finding out whether it's nature or nurture that determines the outcome of the soul. All right, and that's cool. That's all right. In the meantime, I've been putting up these graphics that depict decisions and policies made by human elites to determine the methods and processes of governance that work around the civil governance model, that work around monarchy, they work around democracy, they work around republicanism in order to influence and determine outcomes outside of the public consensus. Okay, so down below, I'll give you a graphic that summarizes the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, the protocols of the Frankfurt School, and the platform of today's Democratic Party. All right. And many of the YouTubers have been deploring the fact that our original natural laws, common laws, are being overturned and overwritten by maritime admiralty statutes, corporate statutes, UC codes, and administrative codes. And what humanity has done is to set that determination into concrete so that the wishful thinking that exists in constitutional law that says that all human life has rights has been overturned and repudiated by mankind themselves. How did that happen? How did that happen? Well, if you recall, and NASA's activities, I guess it was about 10 years ago, NASA recorded that the fragments of something hit Jupiter, right? What they didn't tell you is that exercise terminated the eternal life of Enlil the Anunnaki. Anunnaki, excuse me, I have to keep remembering it's Anunnaki. Enlil died on Jupiter, and Marduk, also without trial, without habeas corpus, was snuffed on October 9th, 2009, when NASA's LROC 2 projectiles slammed into crater Cabeus, I believe it was, at the South Pole, knocked a hole in the moon's water reservoir and executed Marduk. Now, what NASA has done in murdering 2 eternal souls who had never been tried in a court of law for any crime, NASA and its deep state sponsors have made the thesis that no life is sacred, not even an eternal Anunnaki who's never been charged with a crime. And so by the actions of NASA, they have set the precedent that no life is sacred on this world. That's the belief and the doctrine of NASA that is supported by the secret space program's commercialization and marketing of human souls, body parts marketing, soul trafficking, child sex trafficking, human experimentation on humans. The United States government has been experimenting on its own people for half a century, as if its own people have no rights to a integrity. The United States governmental agencies, FDA, have been approving vaccines and drugs that do more harm than good since about the 80s, so that vaccine damage is very difficult to prosecute. And at the same time, the government says, you got to have your flu shot. Bullshit. They have compromised the quality of vaccines to the point that the vaccines have become, in the case of the measles vaccine, more dangerous than the disease. And in the case of the HPV virus, the vaccine is more dangerous than the disease, more prevalent than the disease. So the US government, through its deep state, senior executive service, and corporate operatives, have set the policy of the planet to be genocidal and omnicidal as a result, I believe, of their minds having been possessed. Okay, their minds, the Luciferians in this world, their minds are possessed by the desire to rule or ruin, rule and ruin. Okay, and that desire to possess comes from the Christos founders at the galaxy. I don't know about the Anu Elohim, but the galaxy has had the intention since the El Anu Treaty of 600,000 years ago to utilize this space for commerce in whatever can get sold here. This is a marketplace, and human bodies, as government policy has not only acted on, but set in de jure as law, that human people are merely consumable products. And when you're born, you become the collateral for government debt. You have a value that is finite and material. And so there's no wondering why UFOs come here and abduct people, steal people, because people are just consumable products to the deep state and to NASA, who make their adventures into policing what hasn't been determined in a court of law. They're vigilantes, essentially. NASA's vigilantes. They operate from the belief in the principle of discovery. Whatever they touch, they own it already. You know, it doesn't matter that somebody else is there, somebody else has title to it. Whatever NASA touches, they believe they just bought it. And of course, along with that belief and that doctrine is the imaging policies that go with telling a different story, that tell about the story of seeking other worlds and seeking a safe place and going to find a way to save humanity, and their imaging policies, leaving out the black light spectrum so that dark matter cannot be articulated, makes it very difficult for anyone viewing NASA photographs to see anything but what NASA wants you to see. And I've been discussing this with NASA over the past 12 years, and they told me to go ahead and just do whatever I want to their photographs because they're non-copyrighted, and so I do. and I publish them at Facebook, in my Space Images Revisited and Planetary Images gallery. And I include the black light colors into the images so you can see what else can be seen. But of course, believing is seeing. People who believe the NASA doctrine that there's nobody on the moon and nobody anywhere, they already don't see anything. That's how we work cognitively. All right, so that's where I'm at in showing that, unfortunately, our Constitution consists of a set of wishes that do not play out in reality, and that our own deep state governance repudiates completely. The deep state has repudiated the Constitution and has ensconced UC codes and Maritime Admiralty codes as the only operative system of law on the planet, and people can just be effaced or extinguished or called or murdered or whatever, and they're just nothing but consumable products on this world, and that's how it is. That's how it is. Now, for those of us who hold to a covenant in which the creative God did confer rights to the sacred people and souls to live on, we have a problem because we live scattered in a culture of vultures and predators, because the whole system is predatory. And our education system, academia, have been confounded with multiplistic theories of society, one on top of each other, set against each other, to make understanding that civil governance is not difficult, and that natural and common laws are not many. In my version of the Mosaic Law that I edited, there are only 254 legal principles. So common law is not difficult, natural law is not difficult, but commerce for profit and for profits, PROPHETS, is very complex and rule bound and is full of rule baiting, just like a mafia. And that's because that's what it is. It's a mafia. We live in a mafia situation. And finding a safe place in a mafia situation is a problem. You know, it's not just easy to get safe, particularly now when the people who are being called are the middle class who are fairly intelligent and who were fairly educated until about 30 years ago. And once the Frankfurt School and Saul Alinsky and protocols methods were incorporated into education, that made sure that our younger generations are very confused. They're confounded. And that's how it is. And so as an older person, yes, I deplore what education is doing to children, not what it's doing for children. And so we struggle on. And we struggle against the secrecy, and we struggle against the bad methods that governance is using to intimidate, diminish, and cull innocent people without trial. And that's, Russia went through this process beginning 1917. China went through this process 1940s onward. I guess it's America's turn to feel the backhand of tyranny and top-down imperialism. So we'll get through this because the soul is stronger than the body. Thank you very much for paying this attention. I'm just shadow banned. I hardly ever get 100 views on anything I put up, but I figure I let go and let God figure it out. Take it easy. Bye-bye.